Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the ImPerfect Podcast. I'm Kathy.
And I'm Kennedy. Join us on this week's episode as we discuss intriguing topics and people of interest that will inspire us to explore all of the unique pieces of ourselves.
We are all imperfectly perfect.
We're glad you're here. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the ImPerfect Podcast. So, to be quite frank, Mom and I had no idea what we were going to talk about today, but we felt it was fitting that at some point or another we would discuss the guide on how to be perfect. And we just did an overview of several different opinions because, it's quite biased. But we've compiled a few, and some I can definitely agree with, but others are, I would say, controversial and even sexist. So we'll get into a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're going to first start off by looking at why would somebody want to be perfect in everything? And it's probably because we get sucked into this perfection idea based around one simple reason. And we believe that perfection will protect us. And actually, perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect and look perfect and act perfect, that we can actually minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame in our lives.
And that's totally fair. I mean, it's not point blank in your face that way, but it makes a lot of sense. Why else would we want to be perfect? I would say there's also an aspect of wanting to live comfortably and without, I was going to say without judgment, but I guess that's what we just said.
Yeah.
It's funny how we want to be perfect for other people, not so much for ourselves, eh?
Well, it actually kind of makes sense in terms of a trauma response because, when we're first born, we need others to accept us and to look after us. Otherwise, we die, right? So
That's
I
another
think
good point.
some of that can hang on into our, later years, that behaviors that we had developed in the beginning kind of stick through when we don't necessarily need people to look after us anymore, but we still require that love and acceptance and.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's so many different perspectives and how to look at it and whatever, but even so, I kind of feel like there's a way to say, I mean, we all are kind of like, well, what is perfection? And again, like I said, it's kind of biased. Some people would view perfection as getting to travel the world or whatever, but like there's almost subcategories to perfectionism. So like it's not just a generalized, hey, I live a perfect life. It's, do I have a perfect marriage? Is my job perfect? Is my schedule perfect? Are my kids perfect? Are my
A lot of,
finances?
yeah, I think we, as a society, I mean, we're social creatures, and so it's extremely painful. I think we can all admit to not be accepted into a group situation. So I think we've bought into a lot of these societal norms, for lack of a better word, that, kind of dictate for us that you have to have a certain this or a certain that, and I know quite a few people that are more concerned about outward image than what's
Absolutely.
actually going on inside. So
Oh, 100%. And I was just going to add, so it's funny you say that I can only speak from a woman's perspective, obviously, but I would assume that men have similar experiences when it comes to companies know that the thought of being perfect is what sells to women. So you want to have the perfect skin? Well, you've got to buy our product. And this is why, and it's scientifically proven and whatever. And here's 10 women that have a great experience with it. And you want to have the perfect body? Well, you have to buy this 24-day meal prepped, whatever the heck. So it's kind of used to their advantage or disadvantage too. So I can only speak from a woman's perspective, and I'm sure, Mom, you would say that that's accurate. But
yeah, there's a lot of competition among, I'm not saying there's not competition with men, but with women, you know, men don't even have to pit us against each other because we do it all on our own.
That is
And
facts. Yeah.
and there's so many things that we compete about unnecessarily. Like I can remember just starting out, and you might relate to this at your age. It's very important to have like and especially in the land of Instagram now, right? Like at least I didn't have that social pressure, but you have to have the perfect job, your coffee cup's got to be in the right spot, and a little plant over here, and it's got to have that, I don't know if it's a filter or perfectly matched, like the pink hues with
Yep.
the glow, and like it's all just fake. Meanwhile, you spent half your day at work creating this perfect scene, and your boss walks by and yells at you. Or what does the perfect relationship even look like?
And that's what I mean. And just to add to your Instagram comment too, like I've found myself like my Instagram is more of a publicized version of my portal to keep all of my photos if they ever went missing. So like it's a lot of pictures of me and two other people or whatever. But you look at some people with certain Instagrams and it's like, oh my gosh, that's so aesthetically
Yeah.
pleasing. Like I wish that my Instagram had this like subtle hue of
Yeah.
brown behind it or whatever so that it
And
looked
they've got it all pulled together, and meanwhile, what's behind that closet door looks like an episode of Zaboomafoo. So it's just,
how many selfies did you take before you picked that one, right?
exactly. It's the false image that we put out there. Like I said, what is the perfect relationship? I mean, what it is for me and what it is for somebody who works shift work, or, maybe that works for them,
Right.
or maybe somebody's on the road, or what is the perfect appearance? I mean, I had the opportunity to go to Europe this summer, and their perfect appearance looks a lot different than our perfect
Yeah.
appearance, to be honest. We're over here with our snuffleupagus eyelashes and our nails, that are this long, and well, it's true, but
Yeah.
there it's all about natural beauty. Like most women are not wearing makeup, their skin is clear, like it's more about being fit, but not in a pump and iron at the gym in my Lulus. It's
Mm.
not that kind of way. It's just, it's a lifestyle for them. So perfect appearance, to me, just from the outside, comes more naturally to them because it's become more of a reality, like their real lifestyle. They're not pretending. They're not, just getting in the perfect pose with whatever, and
Right.
putting up the guns just for the picture, right? So
It
I
could
don't
be
know.
cultural differences too and influences. Like there's probably so many factors we couldn't even explain it in a lifetime, but it just makes me think too. We had an episode that we discussed as well that I believe it was the blueprint episode where we talked about someone's blueprint may look completely different than somebody else's. So I think the same could be said about being perfect, that someone may feel they have the perfect life and to me it's like nothing that I want. So I'm like, why would somebody want that? So it's based on so many opinions and cultures and anyways. So I think I'd like to start, if you're cool with it, on we found so interesting two lists: how to become a perfect woman and how to become a perfect man.
And
And this was just
these
generalized research online.
these are not like the typical ones that you might see come across your screen in a meme, that are like the overdone, like 1950s version. Like I actually was reading through these and laughing and saying to Kennedy, like, when was this written? I got to go back. It's got to be like a 1950s, 1960s bus. And it wasn't. It was what, 2017?
You said 2017 was when that article was. Yeah. The
Right?
one that we're going to read some of.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So super strange. But anyway, so some of these are obviously very laughable, but you'll also see it's very sexist. The contrast between the two of it's so funny. Like it's kind of what you expect from woman versus man. But anyway,
And
um
can I just say, in my generation, nothing would have been thought about that sort of a comment. But of course, now in present day in your generation, and I'm not even talking cancel culture and all that sort of stuff. This is just like in our everyday lives now, like things that are just like, that's not really a cool thought about a woman anymore. Right.
Right. So, we'll just start reading. We'll maybe discuss if we so feel, but how to become a perfect woman. Look after yourself. Well, I'd hope so. But
Get
it's like Mom said, there's some that you may have seen that are very over exaggerated from like the 50s and things where it's like, before your husband comes home, make sure that you clean yourself up and you touch up your lipstick and that everything is in its place before he comes home, and so that you can let him relax. So anyway, I think that's what that's kind of insinuating.
But at least the focus is more a little bit on yourself. And I mean, do people really need to read these articles, right? Like, I mean, we looked for it as a joke, but are people seriously reading this stuff? Like, why do you have to be told to look after yourself? Right? Shouldn't that be kind of a given?
You'd think.
Even if you're not trying to be perfect.
Right.
Anyway, number 2, get rid of bad habits. Again, not rocket science.
Yeah. Don't be rude or nasty.
These are lessons my mother taught me and my father taught me. I think it had nothing to do about being perfect. It was
Just
like
being a good human being.
yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah.
So avoid being too materialistic.
And I've heard that a lot too. But again, like, I'm also very much the type of person that if I want to travel, let me be happy and let me do my own thing. But if you want a side by side, do you and you have a side by side, but don't look at me and wonder why you have no money to go travel, and I can't look at you and wonder why I can't have a side by side, right? So it's your life, do what you want. But I've heard the avoid being too materialistic, and it's like Mom had said, it's a lot of people are more concerned about the outside image versus what's
So
actually.
are you wanting to travel just so you can get some cool Instagram photos?
Right.
Or is he wanting the side by side just because his buddy's got one, but really he could care less? Like, yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So be ready to change. So, okay.
I think that's just life, isn't it? Personality counts, obviously.
Yeah. And as a whole, continue to keep in the back of your mind about how to become a perfect woman. It's just very one-sided. Like, and as we move on to the how to be a perfect man, it's going to be like how interesting they are side by side. You said personality counts, so use positive affirmations. I mean, that's fair advice.
Yeah, it doesn't, I don't know, that word affirmations is a little bit more current.
Advanced,
So
yeah.
I'm thinking, like, how does that even fit in with the rest of this list? Not that it's completely sexist. Like, I mean, they're good tips, but again, why do you have to read up on this stuff?
Right.
And why are we talking about it?
Right.
Anyway, fear nothing. So that's virtually impossible, I think.
I don't know that I agree with it either. I feel like there's something positive that can come from fear at the same time.
Well,
It's just all in context. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, maybe just, I think a more appropriate definition there would have been like, go for it, or
Right, not fear nothing. Because I feel like, when you get the butterflies in your stomach, it's an anxiety or fear, but it could be in anticipation of. And if you don't fear or feel anxious about anything, that could be a positive outcome. There's nothing that you're necessarily fearful of in life, and you don't appreciate things as much, I guess is what I'm getting at. But anyway.
I think fear, is, I don't want to say overrated. I don't know what the proper word to use is here, but fear is actually something we have for a reason. But it's when we attach it to all these other circumstances of life that things can get out of control, I think is what they're trying to do. So, how about learn to take compliments? So
that's
actually,
a hard one.
I feel it's a really good pointer, because I think they're trying to say, like, just learn to be gracious, perhaps. When somebody compliments you, often I don't personally have an issue with it now, but I used to. I think because of younger years and things that may or may not have happened, it's almost like you, not you, that I personally would twist anything positive somebody said almost to a negative. Like, so if you said, "Oh, your hair looks great," I'd be thinking, like, does she think it looks great? Or does it really not look great? Because the sarcasm is so much a part of our society. And I
Yeah.
pity anybody who has to learn English because everything we say in the run of a day, like about half of it is actually literally what we mean.
And it's funny that you say that too, because as you're talking, I'm thinking about, as an example of what mom's getting at in her situation. If you had a hat on right now and I said, your hat's cute,
Yeah.
you would be triggered by that. And I know
It,
that just
it does
knowing you
trigger
as
me.
my mom,
Yeah.
because I know that in the past, sarcastically, Emmy or I or whoever, my sister or I, would say, nice hat,
Right.
because she often wears her hat like half off of her head. But I know that that bothers you because you've expressed that to me. But I'm just saying,
Well,
even positively saying that to you, it's hard for you to accept that because it's been said so sarcastically so many times in the
it is,
past.
and I think it was said originally maybe as a joke because it was sideways or what have you. But then after a period of time, it getting worked on and worked on, and then you kids were in on it and the whole thing. And yeah, it did definitely become a trigger to the point of someone actually said it as a legit compliment to
Right.
me one time, like, "Hey, that's a cute hat," or "That looks cute on you,"
You're
or what.
going, well, what's wrong with it? Right.
And I automatically went to the defense of like, thanks. And the person was like, what? Like, I'm serious. And it took a lot for me to step over that and realize that they actually were being authentic in their compliment. So
See,
that,
I'm different with the compliments. I guess we had a lot to say about the compliments, but this is definitely something that I have to work towards for myself. What I do, you said you turn it into a negative. That's definitely where I'm at. I find it very hard, and I consciously try to fix my behavior when, like, for example, my boyfriend will say, "You look really pretty." And I'll go, "Well, you look really pretty." So
right.
I like, not that it's a negative, but I'll bump it back on the other person. Stop paying attention to me and let's
Okay.
just be equal here. So like I'll do that. Or somebody has given me a compliment before or said, you're really good at this. And I'll go, lies, you lie.
Right. To minimize it.
Right.
So
Eh,
I've gotten actually better at that myself. Like now, when somebody gives me a genuine compliment, I can say thank you. But there was a period of being uncomfortable,
mm. And
definitely.
ironically, the next one is appreciate yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
fair.
that comes easily, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a tough one.
it
You know,
is.
especially as women, we can tend to be the caretakers and looking after everyone else besides ourselves. And it happened to me. You work your whole life for your kids, your spouse, whatever, the house or whatever other, your job, that sort of thing. And then after a while, you know what everybody else's pick would be or first choice. And somewhere in the mix of all of that, you've lost touch with who you even are, or what your interests are, or what your first pick would be. I can remember saying, like, at different times, I knew what each of you kids would want, or I'd know like what other people that were with us would want off the menu or whatever.
But you couldn't decide for yourself. Yeah.
It was very difficult because I had hyper focused on everyone else in my world, and like, I don't know why.
Mm.
I think a lot of women do that.
Yeah, I've heard it a lot. And the last one is value your family. So I guess that's a fine line.
So
But
don't value your family too much. Appreciate yourself
well,
some more.
you see what I'm saying. But so as a whole, that list is very much on, prim and proper, value your family,
Yeah.
keep the compliments, back up straight, that kind of vibe. So moving on. And it's so strange. It didn't take us long to find these lists and it was just as I had expected them to be. So moving on to how to become a perfect man. Number one, get comfortable being a man.
What does that even mean? Do you
There's a book
pull
I
it off
actually,
and go, yeah, I'm cool with that? I don't
yeah,
know what that
there's
means.
a book I gave my boyfriend actually for Christmas, and it's because it's an inside joke. It's this man on TikTok, and he wrote a book called Be a Man. But it's like the sarcastically funny things, Your wife asks you to take the trash out, be a man and do it 4 hours later. So it's all these like just whatever. So they're jokes, and he made a successful career on TikTok doing that. But
Being
maybe that's,
sarcastic.
yeah. But get comfortable being a man, whatever
Yeah.
that means.
Okay. How about he pays the bills and wakes up on time?
Well, that's just life, is it not?
Well, it should be if it's not. But yeah,
Right.
let's all clap for that.
Right. Right. Run a lot and pick up heavy stuff. Like you can't make this stuff up.
Okay. Hustle, get money, repeat.
I just think of
Go
that.
with
I won't say the expression on the podcast, but there's a get money and get, like, that's such a slang, like, just
this.
what am I saying? Expression that guys use. Oh yeah, make money and get.
Yeah. There's a lot of testosterone in this list.
No kidding. That's what I'm kind of like hinting at. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Fix your dating life.
Yeah.
Important stuff on being perfect right there.
Stop giving away your power.
That's big. What does that? Okay, so we gotta act macho and can't cower sometimes, or
I don't know. From my perspective, a man that can switch gears a little bit and be empathetic, or even be a little bit emotional, or make some heart-based decisions as opposed to
right.
ugh, right?
Yep. Become a dangerous man.
Again, yeah.
Like, okay.
Cultivate a certain degree of disagreeableness. Wow, I know some people that really
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, some people got that down pat.
right.
Uh,
Stop complaining and start fixing.
some people could work on that.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. Be kind and respectful, but take no crap is the nice word for what it says.
Right.
So be kind and respectful, but defensive.
Well,
It's
yeah,
basically.
I don't know. I kind of agree with that one, but it doesn't need to be on the men's list specifically. Like, I think that's just you know, a general statement for everyone.
Mm,
Become respectful, but don't let people walk on you, type of thing.
mm. Be tough as nails, but temper it with gentleness. What?
It's a little confusing.
A little bit.
How about watch less porn? Good on you.
On the list of how to be a perfect man. Meanwhile, women get things like uh use positive affirmations. Men, watch less porn.
Right.
Thank you for that very insightful advice. Replace one loser friend with a winner friend, or a loser friend with a loser friend.
You're a loser friend with a winter friend? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I guess if you're always subbing out for the top dog, then you don't have any long-term friends, maybe. I don't
And
know.
again, it creates this competition and this conflict about nothing.
Right. So, and the last one in this list is don't make women the mission of your life. So lots of testosterone, but a little bit mixed message there. Like
Yeah,
ugh, but not ugh.
right.
Right.
Just very interesting to compare the two side by side of what is of importance of being a woman or being a man. And it's, again, as you'd expect, and very stereotypical. So it didn't disappoint in that regard. And so just a generalized list of steps to perfection. That was my
Actual, like real suggestions, you mean this time?
I don't know. Could be debated. We'll see. We'll just quickly read through them, but don't be distracted. I feel that's a fair general statement, just that you should be focused on what you're doing, and distractions are just going to slow you down or make you angry or
Stay motivated. So again, another good one. It's hard to do those sometimes,
They
life
kind of go
happens.
hand in
And
hand. Yeah.
how many times have I got up and thought, I'm going to do this today, and I'll feel really great about that. And then, 10 minutes out of bed and you get this emergency text and you have to run down the road, or everything just doesn't happen as planned. So
Yep.
that can be discouraging and exhausting all at the same time. Actually, I had a day like that today, and hit the ground running out of bed, up for a walk at 6 this morning, come back, showered, got things started. And then about 10:30, it started going downhill in a
Yep.
hurry. And by the time I got back home, I was like, I have all this other stuff to do. Like, what of those things can I do while I'm kind of lounging on the couch because I'm emotionally exhausted? And so,
And oh crap, Kennedy's coming at 4 o'clock, right?
yeah, so yeah, it's really sometimes hard to stay motivated for sure.
Yeah. Don't give up halfway through. That one is just as hard. And again, they all kind of tie together somehow.
Mm-hmm. Have determination and perseverance.
That's all what we kind of want to pursue in life, I would think.
And we're not trying to sound perfect here. Like Kennedy and I struggle with this stuff every day.
Yeah, determination and perseverance. I said to Mom already, I'm not looking forward to gym in the morning, so that's where I'm at right now. And we had Greco for supper, so
Right. So have the will to overcome hurdles.
yeah.
Again, it ties in with staying motivated and don't give up and rah rah shish boom ba, and some
Yeah.
days are better than others on that, right?
Yep. Learn from your mistakes. I feel like I've learned from my mistakes several times, but Mom and I have had many discussions about how in life we meet people or experience certain things, and it's like they say you're either you meet what's the expression or what's the saying? You meet someone to either grow or to learn a lesson or something anyway, and there's obvious people or obvious situations where it's like, okay, I was supposed to learn something in this situation, and it's happened about 20 times similarly, so I'd really like to know what I'm supposed to learn from this situation so I can move past it.
You're not listening.
Yeah, like learn from my mistakes. Okay, so I see you, like I know you're here, but like what have I not seen yet? So
If people could just come like a fortune cookie with like a note between their arms or something,
this is
right?
what your future holds with
Pull it
this
out and
person or this endeavor or whatever.
just
But
make things a lot
wouldn't
easier.
it? Wouldn't it? A guide to Kennedy or a guide to so and so would be just so much easier for everyone, I think.
Right. So also learn from the mistakes of others. So sometimes those are a little easier to pick out.
They are.
But do we learn from them? I don't know necessarily. I'm one of those people that sometimes has to learn the hard way. And
I think I do in situations where this is going to sound so awful to say out loud, but I see something that someone else will do that'll annoy me. And I'll be like, okay, so I'm definitely not doing that.
right.
But it's more about not wanting to come off like that person did to me.
Right.
Um,
I wanted to say, I think
yeah,
it's chronic struggle of a mom or a parent to be like, and don't do that because I did that, or I remember when I was this age and this is what happened. And so like, and you're trying to impart these words of wisdom onto your children to save them some heartache and pain from going through the same type of things. And then the kid's like,
but it's
okay.
also a fine line because then you can end up with a parent who's just, and
Yeah.
then the kid just wants to break free. And anyway, there's no perfect way to do it.
It certainly isn't, but yeah,
Yeah.
just it's I know that with you and number two, I really tried to give you some of, what I went through or real life stories that maybe you would take a few cues from. Now,
Mm,
sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't. So, and I probably took 1% of what my mother tried to tell me and went and did what I wanted anyway, right? And learned the hard way a lot of times. Cheater.
yeah. Talk and check in with yourself. Yep.
The checking, I don't, I do talk to myself, but I don't know if that's an attribute. Checking myself, that has become part of something that I do more frequently now. And I guess it would be sort of like meditation, but I'm not talking in a meditation sort of way. But, life's so busy, and then you're checking your phone, and then you're getting ready to go to work, and then you gotta have your shower, and you can't forget this. And a lot of times we make it all the way through the day, and there's emotions and there's events that happen that can sometimes be upsetting or off-putting or whatever, and we don't often take the time to just sit with ourselves and realize, like, that kind of bothered me. I never even realized it until I sat and thought about it a little bit. Or I felt like somebody crossed a boundary with me and I should have spoken up for myself. So if you're not taking the time to check in, then you can't, you know improve, I guess, because you don't even know what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Don't try to prove anything in the world.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, especially, well, for your generation too, right? Like, because now you gotta get out there and prove yourself. But we talked about this at supper time. It's difficult for your generation. You grew up with the ethic of work hard and you'll build a wonderful life. But things, the way the economy is right now and the way the world is, it's discouraging. Do you want to
It's
speak on
exhausting, really, to work hard. And in high school, you're told to work really hard and get a good job, and you will be essentially rewarded in life for your efforts. And the economy that we live in, it's not impossible, but it's a huge struggle. And Mom and I were discussing this, like you said, and what you had bought your house for however many years ago, and it's unthinkable now. It's just not even an option. So it's crazy to just anyway. Just it's a difficult time, is I guess what we're getting at. But don't try to prove anything in the world, and to be even noble in your efforts is the next one. We are quite noble, but sometimes it's hard. I find I'm kind of all over the place with this thought, but it's hard because you work hard and you're waiting for that pushback of congratulations, and it's not coming yet. So it's difficult.
Mhm. Next one up is be efficient. So that's always advantageous, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're specifically trying to be in the moment so that you're not like just corralling 1,000 things at once and not enjoying any of them.
Yeah. Learn to manage your time. We've talked about that in a previous episode, that your time management, there's ways to mitigate that and ways that you can improve that and practice it as a practice. But you have to do it with intention, obviously.
Mm. The next one says never stamp on others to get what you want. I guess what that means is don't be a bully, right? So we talked about that in the past. There are some people that have no problem with stepping all over others to get in a higher position themselves. But yeah, that's not one of the steps to perfection.
And to prioritize self-care, we've talked about that. Learn how to say no. That's a big one for me. I was talking to Mom and telling her how I'm a yes man, and it's crazy what I will push myself to do for other people, but to invest that amount of time into myself, it's, oh, well, I'll just lazy around and scroll through my phone. That's an easy thing. And it's seen as self-care, but it's really not taking care of myself. And what I probably really need is, to sit down with a cup of tea and read a book, which is something that would actually kind of fill my cup up a little bit.
I find for me, it's not that I have a problem saying no, but I do see myself sometimes prioritizing others and almost not being honest with myself in thinking like, oh, okay, I'll do my own thing later, or I'll treat myself later,
You
or
justify it.
right. And by the time you get to the end of the day, and although you had good intentions, you're freaking exhausted from whatever else came at you in the day. And so you're just like, I can't even. So then you're doing something to try to decompress before it's bedtime. And often you can push yourself off quite a bit that way by
Right.
not. For me, it's not learning how to say no, it's learning how to prioritize my needs just as much as others.
Yeah. And you had mentioned that too with being a mom, that can very much be a thing. But and as a last one, just know what perfection is to you. And we talked about that previously. Like there's all these subcategories almost of you have to have a perfect financial situation and a perfect marriage and a perfect kids, and then it can all be a perfect situation. But after saying all of that, our main point is wholly overwhelming.
Are any of us more perfect now that we've gone over
No.
these rules? No, so that's the whole point here is everyone's imperfect and we're imperfect for a reason, to be different, to create the landscape. And although a lot of times we feel that we don't fit in, if all the puzzle pieces were the same in that box to make the puzzle things, we fit together in unique ways. I don't know if that came out right, but
No, but I see what you're saying. We'd be a pretty boring puzzle if our puzzles all looked the same.
And I
And
used to hear that and think like, what a load of crap, right? Like, I
no,
just want to fit in. I just want to be normal. But the point is that I have found personally in embracing my own things that aren't perfect and being more, forthcoming about that and not trying to pretend that everything is perfect, because everything's not perfect in anybody's life. Even if it looks perfect, like that's an exterior. And yeah.
yep.
No.
There's
Yeah.
no way to reach that perfection is the main point. And we've actually talked to a lot of guests lately about how our imperfections are what make us perfect. And Mom had just said that. So it couldn't be said more perfectly than that. And hey, the whole premise of our podcast, right? So ultimately, we just kind of thought about this idea today and on the fly and wanted to talk about it. We felt it was quite fitting and suitable for our podcast. But yeah, reading through some of the things, there's obviously some sexist comments on perfection. There's also a lot of pressures on there's multiple lists online on how to be perfect, and some are simple and 3 steps and some are 50 steps. And the main overall message here is you quite literally don't have to do anything. You can just be you, but you should want to improve yourself on a daily basis. And that's, as long as you had a step further than where you were yesterday, that's all anybody can really ask for.
Just take the real you and polish it up a little bit.
That's right. Thank you so much for tuning in again, and we will be here next Monday as per usual.
See ya.
If you or someone you know has a unique story to tell, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at theimperfectpodcast@outlook.com.
For more information and how to connect with us on social media, you can visit us at our website, theimperfectpodcast.ca.
And from whichever platform you are listening to this episode, be sure to like, share, and leave us a review. We would really appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode.
We look forward to hearing your feedback and seeing you all find that extra joy and embrace your own imperfect.
See you next week.